Mama,
Yes, sir.
do it.
My son signing his deal makes his mama feel like this.
Hey everybody, welcome into Between the Tackles. This is episode 1 of our off-season season of Between the Tackles.
So what was the
excited?
prior episode? Was that the final episode of the regular season?
There was like the finale, yeah.
Okay, got
It
it.
actually was supposed to occur in the Texas State pool. This was a grand finale. We were going to leave everyone, on a good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to start this off on a good note. That's still holds a dear place in my heart that we didn't.
Doug went there. We started off. I told our producers to roll that video of Mama Hightower.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff there. That was supposed to
good
be
stuff.
the positive
I
tone setter.
ruined it.
Tone setter. All right, yeah, we'll reminisce about
I'll
Houston
survive.
some other time because
Do I have to rewind?
He's bringing it back again.
Neither one of those were very good.
Now everyone
I
can
feel like I
actually
could've
see,
done better,
because
yeah.
we have real cameras, like what I was dealing with this one day sitting on the wall at Gillette Stadium, and he's rewinding and taking it from the top.
Yep. So we're rewinding. Yeah, Donta Hightower's mom. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
She was very excited that her son signed a multi-million-dollar contract, as she
should have been, yeah. 4 years,
Yeah.
$43.5 million, $19 million guaranteed. If that was my child, I'd be dancing as well.
Yeah.
But my moves definitely wouldn't be as good. I'll say that.
Over the last few weeks, every time I tweet, someone responds to me or had responded to me, what's going on with Hightower, as if I wasn't just going to report the news on my own. I was waiting for someone to ask me. So I can definitively say that Donta Hightower has signed, and his mother is very excited about it. She's dancing, as are all Patriots fans, as they should be.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was really on the edge of their seats over this, despite the big splash moves that they've been making. It kind of wasn't enough. Everyone wanted to know what was going to happen with Donta Hightower. Why? Why was this the most important move they've made?
Well, I mean, if you just look at the defense, every other position they kind of had someone who can sort of slide up into that starting role. Linebacker, they didn't have anything. I mean, I don't think any Patriots fans would be confident at all having Shea McClellan, Kyle Van Noy, Landon Roberts. All three good players, solid contributors, but I mean, the distance between them and Donta Hightower is massive. And I know we both thought he was the top free agent available on the entire market, and the fact that the Patriots could bring him back was huge.
It kind of fills in the depth chart, too. I'm currently writing up a depth chart reset, and all their starters are in place right now. Everything else at this point is basically just gravy, and if you had lost Donta Hightower, then you would be looking for a starting linebacker, because like you said, I mean, Kyle Van Noy, Shea McClellan, and Landon Roberts, fine players. One of them is going to be the other linebacker in there, but you need that top guy in the middle, and that's Donta Hightower.
And I feel like he was just the glue that that's the emphasis, is that we talked all last season about how, the defense, are they going to prove themselves? Of course, they go on to win a Super Bowl, but he was a big part of that. That intangible of being a presence in the locker room and keeping those guys together. I feel like they do really need that heading into this next season. But speaking of the big splash signings that the Patriots have made this offseason, which is very uncharacteristic of them. Yeah, Bill Belichick wasn't kidding when he said no days off. Clearly, we I think that was maybe a little
harbinger or something.
Yeah, what's it called? The words escaping me. I hate when this happens.
Yeah.
Help me out, guys.
I tried with harbinger.
Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing.
Yeah,
I just had a brain cramp. That was embarrassing, but
right.
I think it was foreshadowing,
Right.
at the parade when he said no days off.
I think that he was trying to spite me, because I wrote like hours before they signed Stephon Gilmore to not expect any splash signings on the first day of free agency. It was like, bam, Stephon Gilmore right out of the gate. No one could have possibly predicted it. So Bill, he sent me a Christmas card this year, but I think this is kind of putting me back in my place.
That was kind of the sense that we all got. We're like, all right, free agency opens on this Thursday. A bunch of these kind of lower level teams are going to jump and throw big money at all these high priced, high profile free agents. The Pats are just going to kind of hang out, wait in the weeds, and then maybe 5-6 days later, they'll come in and scoop up the scraps and then turn them into another Super Bowl winning team. Yeah. That's not what they did this year. They did basically the complete opposite. And they now have, I believe, 6 new players, plus the guys like Hightower and Harmon and Branch who they returned. So very, very busy offseason. And it's only a week old, basically.
Now with the Hightower deal said and done, I would say that they have won the offseason pretty much. And
Yeah.
I had to laugh because I remembered last year, Rex Ryan, everyone making fun of him because he said, we won the offseason. Everyone was like, what does that mean? Because it's not doing you any good. But I think you can safely say, I don't think the Patriots are going to be raising a banner at Gillette Stadium for winning the offseason.
I don't think you're going to hear Bill Belichick say that the Patriots won the offseason. But we can say
no,
it.
I
mean,
and they did.
At this point, you're just trolling if you say that any of these moves were wrong, really. I can't, like, even the lower level ones, like a Lawrence Guy or Rex Burkhead, which I guess maybe isn't a lower level move considering what they paid him. Look at all these look like good moves. I mean, I'm sure all of them won't pan out quite as much as everybody hopes they will, but on the paper, like, there's not much to hate about this.
So I want to talk to you guys about why now, because the Patriots are defending Super Bowl champions. Right after they won the Super Bowl, it comes out that Vegas has them favored to win the next Super Bowl in 2018. So they already had a lot of the pieces in place, and I know that they did have a lot of free agents hit the market, but why so uncharacteristically active this offseason?
I forgot who wrote it. It might have been Mike Reese, so shout out to him, I guess. His theory was that this is kind of Bill Belichick keeping the players on their toes, making sure that they're not kind of resting on their laurels, thinking, oh, we're going to repeat again, this will be easy, same team going into next year. I mean, Bill Belichick didn't blow things up this year, but bringing in so many new guys, he almost did. So I think that that's part of it. I think the other part is just you got to keep things fresh. You got to keep new guys coming in here, and if you can improve your team through trades, through signings, then you're going to do it. And you'd be hard pressed to say that they haven't so far. At the very least, this team is just as good as the one that won a Super Bowl next year. And with additional pieces that they'll bring in, I think they will be even better. Yesterday, I basically wrote, all right, this guy replaces this guy replaces this guy, and for now, it is kind of. They're all replacing other players, but as the signings go on, I think that they will be even better than what they were last year.
Yeah, and you also looked at there are some. I mean, they don't have quite as many free agents set to hit the market in 2018, but there are some very high-profile guys in there: Julian Edelman, James White, Dion Lewis. So some of this could be kind of planning toward the future in that regard. But it definitely seems like they're loading up for this season.
Yeah, certainly. And Stephon Gilmore, let's start with him because he was that first big splash signing that really shocked us all. Why is it that they value Gilmore more than Butler, so it seems, because they give him this huge contract right off the bat? I know he has the height advantage, so probably gives them a better edge at covering the big receivers that are in the league now. Is that the reason?
I think it's a number of things. And I've kind of talked about this ever since they did sign Gilmore. He's got the pedigree of being a first-round pick. He was the 10th overall pick. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. All of that is an advantage over Malcolm Butler. You've also got the fact that Malcolm Butler was, kicked out of a couple schools during college. Those same issues haven't really popped up when he's been in the NFL, but there are some off-field issues in his past that the Patriots, if you hand him a 4 or 5 year contract, maybe he gets a little bit comfortable, and that might be what the Patriots are seeing. The other thing is just that. Where was I going with this?
Well, avoiding complacency.
Avoiding complacency is part of it. And the final thing is just, I guess, one thing that we've kind of noticed, or I've kind of noticed throughout being in the Patriots locker room, is that Malcolm Butler doesn't really fit in with the rest of the Patriots secondary. And maybe that was only because it was the Rutgers crew that was in there. You had Devin McCourty, Logan Ryan, Deron Harmon. All of those guys were very cerebral players. Malcolm Butler always seemed like more of an instincts type of guy, or, he got off on his confidence, whereas Logan Ryan was studying tape for hours and hours and hours, and that's the same thing that McCourty and Harmon does. I don't know if Gilmore is that player who's more of the cerebral type, more of the guy who will, get in the film room, but Malcolm Butler always kind of seemed like the guy that the Patriots added, not by mistake, but they almost found him by mistake. They found him as a tryout player, as an undrafted free agent, and he wound up being really good. But he probably wasn't the type of player that they usually would have wanted as a number one cornerback. Stephon Gilmore might be more of that type of player. So I think the fact that Butler is shorter, he doesn't have all the measurables that they usually look for. Gilmore is that player. So if you're going to give one guy $13 million over the other one, it probably will be the bigger, faster, stronger, guy who has the pedigree and who has, he's been a little bit more consistent.
Right. So Gilmore
Off the
was a
field.
Pro Bowler in
Right.
2016, and this was a conversation I had with some of my friends who are just sort of fair weather football
Yeah.
fans and know of Malcolm Butler, and not just Patriots fans that know of Malcolm Butler because of the flash that comes with his name, because of the huge interception.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he certainly has developed since coming on to the Patriots. He's been solid. They trust him to cover star wideouts
Right.
this season. He's definitely come along, and I had friends who were like, who is Stephon Gilmore
Right.
kind of thing. And it's like, well, he made the Pro Bowl. Yeah. He's been thriving in Buffalo, which think about that. I mean, Buffalo's been a circus during the years that he's been there, and he's been able to develop. And on the conference call we had with him last week, or a couple days ago, whenever it was, he spoke to that. He said how the turnover in the front office and coaching staff in Buffalo has really helped him because he had to learn different schemes.
The one thing that I would say to that, though, is I remember when Gilmore hit the market just a couple days ago, the thing that he wasn't consistent in Buffalo. Even though he was a Pro Bowler this year, he was bad for multiple games. I mean, we saw the game that the Patriots played up there. He got burned by Chris Hogan and then turned around and started yelling at his teammates before Chris Hogan even got into the end zone.
Yeah.
So I think that's the vision that at least stuck in my head. Obviously, I didn't watch every single Buffalo Bills game this year, and I know Gilmore's a very talented, very physically gifted player. His potential is off the charts, but I think Malcolm Butler was the more consistent, reliable player, at least since he kind of became a starter 2 seasons ago. Maybe the Patriots looked at Gilmore and said, all right, well, the Buffalo's been a mess. He's had 5 different defensive coordinators. Maybe that's a part of why he hasn't been able to be consistent, because he's in all these different systems, all that kind of stuff. Bring him into our system. We know his talent is there. We think that he can adjust to ours. But I mean, I don't
do you think
this
that
is
there's a frustration level that comes with, I mean, Buffalo's D has had such high expectations that they haven't lived up to. Do you think that gets to him on a mental level and is slowing down his own personal game?
It could, but he is part of the defense that wasn't playing up to its potential. So I think I'm surprised they gave him this much money, because I don't think he's a slam dunk. I do think obviously the Patriots are one of the best teams at bringing in people and making them fit into their system, but I don't think this is a guy who is a bring him in, you don't have to worry about him at all, he's going to be your number 1 cornerback. I haven't seen that from him in his career.
So that's what I was going to ask you guys. Could they have gotten him for less money, or do they see him being able to fit with their system?
Someone was going to give him this much money. I'm just surprised that the Patriots did.
I think that when I was talking about Butler, I think consistency was probably the wrong word for me to use, because he has been a very consistent player. I think it's consistency or maybe predictability off the field, but part of the Butler-Gilmore discussion, I think, does have a lot to do with height, because Malcolm Butler really wasn't matching up with number 1 wide receivers.
Yeah.
It was Logan Ryan. It was Logan Ryan with safety help over the top, and a lot of that is because Malcolm Butler is 5'10", and a guy like Alshon Jeffrey or Andre Johnson, I know that's in the past, or like a Julio Jones, these guys are 6'3", these guys are 6'4", and you can't really stick Malcolm Butler on that type of player in a one-on-one situation, because a lot of the times when Malcolm Butler gets beat by a player, it's up top. He's not jumping high enough. He's physically not tall enough. So I think when the Patriots were looking for a number 1 cornerback, they wanted a guy who was 6 feet, who was Darrelle Revis' height or Ty Law's height, and that's what Stephon Gilmore gives them. So even if they don't know for sure that he will be able to be as consistent as Malcolm Butler, he at least has the tools to do it. I think that's kind of telling.
That was why
they didn't have to stick their number 2, number 3 cornerback,
especially since they're losing Logan Ryan.
Especially since they don't have Logan Ryan. Whoever they would stick in, they don't want to have to play against whoever.
That was why I started with asking about the height factor originally, because as we all were surprised to see this signing and then pondering why, that was the first thing that stuck out to me is this guy is big, and there are more and more big-bodied receivers who are very quick, agile.
5'10"
cornerback. He's basically has his measurables, at least back at the combine, were pretty much better than Butler's in every single category.
5'10" cornerbacks just don't have the same value as a 6-foot guy, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And I will say that this is unfortunate, because Malcolm Butler made a franchise-saving play. This is the kind of guy that you want to be able to keep on your team for 10 years, and to have the reunion for the Super Bowl in whatever it's going to be, 2024 or 2034, be a happy time. And if Butler leaves under less than ideal circumstances, we won't see that. But at the same time, it's what Patriots fans all say. I know it's what Patriots players all say. It is a business, and the business decision was to sign the taller cornerback.
Even not for just a nostalgia perspective. I mean, if it was, say, I don't know, Eric Rowe or Ellis Hobbs or one of the, or what was it, going back to some of these, Earthwind Moreland, one of these random guys they had back in the day, if he made that franchise-saving interception, then kind of
tailed off, yeah.
Malcolm Butler was the team's best cornerback by far each of the last 2 seasons, one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL. So I think, I mean, obviously that was his launching off point, but the fact that he did that, burst onto the stage, and then continued to play at a very high level, I think it is sad to see if he kind of ends on not so great terms this offseason.
And obviously that is up in the air. We know he'll be meeting with the New Orleans Saints, so that's to be seen. So before we talk completely about Butler, I want to stick with Gilmore in relation to Butler. Do you think at all when they signed Gilmore they were thinking of it as them being able to complement each other in the backfield?
I don't think so. I mean,
so you think they were expecting?
I think that they were probably
Butler?
expecting to lose Butler, at least eventually. I think that they kind of knew that the long-term deal wasn't going to come out there. And I mean, they're not stupid. When you sign Stephon Gilmore to a $13 million annual salary, and you're offering Malcolm Butler $8 or $9 million, whatever they were offering him, obviously he's not going to accept that if the guy on the other side is making that much more than him. So I think they were ultimately preparing to move on from Butler at some point, whether it's this year or next year. And I mean, Stephon Gilmore, Eric Rowe, and Malcolm Butler are all outside cornerbacks. So they would find a way to make it work in 2017, but it's not exactly ideal.
Yeah, so, well, before we get to that, because I see that if Butler's gone, that's a need that they're going to need to fill. But explain the possible scenarios now if Butler does end up with the Saints, because there's so many, I'm not going to lie, they kind of make my head spin.
So how he could end up with the Saints?
Well, I guess you don't... Yeah, the most plausible.
Basically,
what
there's
do you think
there's
will
two ways
happen?
that he can end up on the Saints. He can either, the Saints can sign him to an offer sheet, he can accept the offer sheet, the Patriots can choose not to match, so then he would sign with the Saints, and then the Patriots would get the Saints' first-round draft pick, which is 11th overall, which is obviously a very, very good pick.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening just because it's so much to give up from the Saints' perspective. They have to give up that high draft pick and sign him to a massive contract because it has to be one big enough that the Patriots wouldn't just say, all right, now, well, fine, we'll take him for that amount. We'll keep him back. I don't see that happening. Maybe it could. I don't know. We're obviously not inside the discussion rooms there. But I think the much more likely scenario is that the Patriots and Saints have a good relationship. Sean Payton and Bill Belichick obviously go way back. They've already swung one trade this offseason with Brandon Cooks. If the two sides work out sort of an agreement to say, because Butler can't be traded until he signs his tender with the Patriots. He's currently a free agent. You can't trade free agents. But if you work out a deal, say, hey, Malcolm, we're going to sign you to this deal. We're going to sign you to this tender, and then we're immediately going to trade you. It's like a sign and trade kind of thing you see in other sports. Sign him, trade him right away for something less than the number 11 overall pick. Maybe the 32nd, maybe a second and a third. I don't know exactly.
Maybe
what that
32nd plus something else.
Yeah.
I mean,
so what do the Patriots have to gain in doing that, aside from keeping a good relationship with the Saints and doing them a favor?
Because then they get a high draft pick, or they get something. Because I can't see the Saints giving up the number 11 pick plus the huge contract. So in order for the Patriots to get something, if they don't want to just keep Malcolm Butler around and then let him walk for nothing in the offseason.
The Patriots basically have to decide if they would rather have Malcolm Butler for the 2017 season or whatever else the Saints would give them. So if they value the 32nd overall pick more than one season of Malcolm Butler, then that's a trade that makes sense for them. And I think that one of the things that is kind of complicating this is the fact that the Patriots and Saints already did make a trade this offseason, and that was for Brandon Cooks. So, I mean, maybe in some other circumstance, a team would decide that Malcolm Butler was worth the 11th overall pick. But in this circumstance, the Saints basically have to say, okay, do we value Malcolm Butler that much higher than Brandon Cooks, where we would be willing to give up the 11th overall pick, whereas we only got the 32nd overall pick plus a third rounder. We gave them a fourth rounder for Brandon Cooks. So I think there's a lot of valuing and mixing and matching here that has to be figured out, but I'm with you. I can't really see them giving up that number 11 pick. I've been surprised before. I was surprised by Stephon Gilmore, so I'm ready to be surprised again, but who knows? I don't see it happening.
How much do you value Butler in the equation, as we started this podcast out talking about how it seems like they're going for it this year?
Right.
They are well-rounded. It looks they should be able to win another Super Bowl. Does that change without Butler?
No, because I'm already kind of preparing for life without Butler. I mean, if they have Malcolm Butler, then they probably have the best secondary in the NFL. But if they don't, they still have a pretty solid secondary. They've still got Devin McCourty, Patrick Chung, Deron Harmon, Stephon Gilmore, Eric Rowe, whoever else kind of fits in that equation. So I don't know. I mean, they would be better with Malcolm Butler, but it seems like this is almost inevitable at this point.
Yeah, I honestly think that when they signed Stephon Gilmore, they viewed Malcolm Butler as kind of gravy. If he comes back, sweet, then we'll have one of the best secondaries, if not the best secondary in the league. But I think when they gave him such a big contract, they had to know that it's going to be very, very difficult to keep Malcolm Butler around.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, another guy that they added, Burkhead, they gave him a considerable chunk of money. You guys said it's the highest they've paid a running back for a
since
one-year deal since 2010.
Yeah, since Fred Taylor.
It's the first time they've paid more than $2 million for a running back since 2010. When it was Fred Taylor and Kevin Falk back then. And Rex Burkhead's going to be making more than Dion Lewis and James White combined this year. I think he's going to be making more than all of the running backs made combined last year on the Patriots. So, I mean, Burkhead's not exactly a superstar. He's not really a big name. He did have a pretty productive season with the Bengals last year. He was a special teams guy for a while, he really only became an offensive contributor like the second half of last season. He had a really good game in week 17. But I mean, if you look at all of his entire game, he's a Patriots type player. And not just because he looks like Danny Woodhead.
I was initially a little surprised at the amount of money they gave him. Like you said, he's not a superstar. But Doug, you said you really see something in him.
I think he can be a starter. I think that, it's not just because of what he looks like, but you're looking at a player who could be in the mold of a Wes Welker or of a Chris Hogan or of a Danny Woodhead. I swear it's not because of what he looks like, of a player who was undervalued on the team that he was on prior and could become a starting caliber player on the Patriots. And we saw the same thing in Chris Hogan last year. He almost doubled the amount of yards they had. I think that Burkhead is, at this point, he's the starting running back. He's the between the tackles runner. He's a little bit undersized. He's about 5'10", 210, 215, but he runs with a lot of power. He's got a lot of versatility. He plays a lot on special teams. He can run between the tackles. He tries to run over guys rather than run around them, I guess. So he's a different type of runner than a Dion Lewis or a James White, despite his size. And I think that's kind of why they signed him. I think that's why they gave him that much money. I think that they saw an undervalued asset that other teams also were interested in. It's not like the Patriots were the only team in on him, and he has 1 year to prove that he can be a starter. And I think that that's part of the reason why he did sign with the Patriots, is to prove that he can be that every down, early down, between the tackles runner with the Patriots. Signs a 1 year deal, and then next year he'll be, making a lot more money if he does that.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to touch on. There's a report from Ian Rappaport over at NFL Network that Burkhead actually left money on the table to come with the Patriots. So other teams obviously felt that he can really contribute as an offensive player too. So, I mean, this is a very good signing, I think. I mean, obviously it's a lot of money, but with the cap, I mean, they still have $27 million left in cap space, even after bringing back Donta Hightower. So cap space really isn't an issue. You can overpay this guy by $1 million or whatever. Yeah. And if you think he's gonna add to what your team needs, especially with LeGarrette Blount now probably not coming back.
Does the Burkhead signing lead you guys to think that they're not
probably
going to bring him back?
I mean, they could bring back one of Blount or Bolden. I don't think they need to bring back both at this point. I don't know. We'll just have to see if Blount's willing to take less money than Rex Burkhead. Then the Patriots would probably like to take him in and maybe compete for a role or something. But at this point, I mean, they gave Burkhead a lot of money, and I'm not sure if that's going to be to play as a backup.
Yeah, so you think they'll bring back Bolden?
I mean, they could, but even
or
that.
Look elsewhere.
I mean, that's a role. I mean, obviously Bolden's been a very good special teamer for them for a while, but that's a role that you can kind of fill with with maybe a running back that you would draft or something like that. But it'll be interesting. The running back market didn't really. I mean, we saw a ton of activity in the first couple days of free agency, but no real running backs. We had a bunch of fullbacks come off the board before running backs. Now it's kind of percolating a little bit with Burkhead and then with Latavius Murray just signing. So I think we'll see over the next couple days. We'll see where Blount and some of these other high-profile running backs end up.
Yeah. Well, as far as needs on defense, defensive end, pass rush was an issue for the Patriots, or we didn't see much of it, whether it was strategic or not. They, of course, Chandler Jones no longer with the Patriots. That's old news, but they have Ninkovich, and then Trey Flowers really broke out this year, was outstanding. And then now they add Cody Keely in a trade from the Panthers. He's a solid player. They need more depth, though.
Yeah, I think they need to add one more player, or two more players, really. They could add a veteran and a free agent. The Patriots have been willing to take on more defensive ends than other positions in the past, just to have a rotation at that position. So I wouldn't be surprised if they added a veteran, maybe like a Elvis Dumerville or a Paul Kruger or a Connor Barwin, somewhere in that range, and then also use one of their top picks on a defensive end, because Coney Ealy's only signed for 1 more year. Rob Ninkovich is going to be, 33 years old next season.
Yeah.
So they need that future starter opposite Trey Flowers, and I think that's probably what they look for in the draft. This isn't certainly the first time they've been needing a pass rusher entering the draft, but I think they definitely need someone to play opposite Flowers at that position for the future.
Yeah, Ely is a solid player. He's a solid addition.
Yeah.
He's had 14 sacks over the last 3 seasons. Obviously had a huge game in that Super Bowl
Yeah, that's what everyone
against your beloved
remembers
Carolina Panthers a couple
Hey.
years ago. Or for your beloved Carolina Panthers a couple years ago. But yeah, he's not I don't think bringing him in solves their pass rush problem. He'll be a good rotational guy, I think, but I can definitely see him bringing in maybe one more veteran and a guy through the draft to kind of bolster up that unit, especially with Chris Long and Jabal Sheard both taking off.
Well, now they shore up Hightower. What do they need to add at linebacker depth? Do you see a Landon Roberts coming along?
That's a good question. I think that, one of Roberts, Van Noy, or McClellan can fill that role, but they could use some more depth there. Maybe a special teams guy. I don't know. I think that's just a position that you might as well add some more talent there just in case, and maybe one of those guys can, if they don't think that Roberts can become the starter, then maybe draft a guy who can become a starter. But yeah, that's a role I think they need.
Go with a Mingo type.
Yeah, some kind of Mingo type or something. I think that position, slot cornerback, maybe another safety, those are those kind of like depth positions that they need to sign. But like I said earlier, their starting lineup at this point is pretty much set on offense and defense.
I'm just thinking about everything we're talking about and the teams out there that
oh my God, yeah.
love to be having these kind of
teams are going to be drafting starters in
and
the 3rd or 4th round, and the Patriots, that's where they're starting to draft, and they don't really need anything.
So how do they utilize those draft picks that they do have?
Well, I'm interested to see, because they don't have many, or they have a decent amount, but they're all very late in the draft. As it currently stands, if they don't make any moves before draft night, their first pick will be number 72, which would be the lowest they've ever made their first pick. Last year was actually the lowest they've ever made their first pick. That was number 60. They drafted Cyrus Jones. I can't see them going 2 full rounds, basically 2.5 rounds, without making any selections. I think there needs to be some sort of trade in the works. I don't know exactly what they will trade. Everybody's pointing to either Malcolm Butler or Jimmy Garoppolo, but it could be maybe a lesser level thing if they don't want to. If both of those fall through. But I don't know. I don't think you can go into a draft, even with a team as talented as you are right now. As we were saying, they do have some free agents coming next year. I think you need to get some youth into that system, and picking in the middle of the 1st or 3rd round as your top pick is tough.
Yeah, running back is another position they could draft pretty high, just because Burkhead is only on the 1-year deal. But yeah, I mean, I think that Butler is probably going to be the one who's moved. Yeah. I would be surprised at this point if he's back next year, quite honestly.
Yep.
All right. Well, we will, of course, be discussing Butler and everything else that goes down once it goes down. This will pretty much conclude our episode 1 of our off-season season of Between the Tackles. And I mean, it's kind of true. The NFL never really. I mean, they have an off season, but it doesn't end. There's always so much to talk about.
There's always something going on.
And everyone should definitely continue to tune in, because we have a secret brand new segment coming out next week. I'm not kidding. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be nothing else like it out there. NFL related, obviously. This is Between the Tackles. It's going to be great. Make sure to tune in.